One wrong pick, and everything falls apart. A future legend slips through your fingers. And in his place? A ghost, a bust, a name fans would rather forget. Over the years, the Las Vegas Raiders have built a legacy of bold moves. Some paid off, but others. They turned into cautionary tales that still haunt the silver and black. Wasted talent. Broken promises, millions gone in a flash, and fans left stunned, betrayed, and heartbroken. You think you've seen bad draft picks before? Wait till you see these. From questionable decisions to complete disasters, we're counting down the top 4 worst draft picks in Raiders history. And trust me, it only gets worse the closer we get to number 1. Along the way, you'll uncover hidden stories, shocking stats, and the real reasons why these picks crashed and burned. So buckle up. This won't be easy for diehard fans. Welcome to History of Raiders. If you love hard-hitting Raiders content, make sure to subscribe and turn on the bell, because we're just getting started. Number 4. Damon Arnett, cornerback, first-round pick, 2020, before we talk about the next draft disaster that had fans shaking their heads before the name was even called. Let's rewind to 2020, a year full of hype, hope, and huge expectations for the Raiders. The team had 2 first-round picks, a golden opportunity to reshape the franchise, and with so much young talent on the board, the possibilities were endless. But then came pick 19, and suddenly, silence. The Raiders selected Damon Arnett, a cornerback out of Ohio State. And the reaction? Confusion, shock, even disbelief. Arnett was projected by most analysts to go in the 2nd or even 3rd round. He was talented, sure, but raw. Inconsistent, not ready for the spotlight of a top 20 selection. So, why did the Raiders reach so high? That question still haunts fans. Mike Mayock, then Raiders GM, said they loved Arnett's toughness, his attitude, his Raiders mentality. But in a league where speed and skill rule, that edge only gets you so far. From the beginning, the pick felt forced, rushed, like the Raiders were trying to outsmart the room. Instead, they outsmarted themselves. Arnett's rookie season started off shaky. He battled injuries early on. A broken thumb and concussion kept him sidelined. And when he was on the field, he was a liability, blown coverages, missed assignments, costly penalties. He looked overwhelmed, like the game was too fast, too big. And then came the red flags off the field. Reports started surfacing. Poor work ethic, immaturity. Team insiders said he didn't take film study seriously, that he wasn't locked in. Still, the Raiders stood by him. They hoped experience would fix it. That time would turn it around. But things only got worse. In 2021, a shocking video hit the internet. Arnett was waving firearms and threatening to kill someone, all on his Instagram story. The clip was chilling. He wasn't joking. He was serious and reckless. The Raiders had no choice. Just a year and a half into his NFL career, Damon Arnett was released. A first-round pick, gone, just like that. And here's the kicker. Arnett didn't just waste his opportunity. He threw it away. Later, more legal trouble followed. A gun-related arrest in Las Vegas, multiple lawsuits. By 2022, Arnett had become the symbol of everything wrong with risky draft picks. The Raiders weren't just burned, they were scorched. What made it worse? They could have picked any number of safer, more productive players at that spot. The 2020 draft was filled with talent at wide receiver, linebacker, safety, all positions of need. But instead, they gambled on a player who hadn't even been projected as a day 1 pick. This wasn't just a miss. It was a complete collapse of judgment. And yet, it wasn't totally out of character. The Raiders under Mayock and John Gruden had a pattern, reaching for their guy regardless of consensus. Sometimes it worked. With Arnett, it was a disaster. Looking back, fans still wonder, what did they see that no one else did? Arnett had character concerns coming out of college. whispers about his attitude, injuries, a playing style that didn't translate well to the NFL. Yet the Raiders ignored all of it and paid the price. And it's not just about wasted talent. It's about what that pick could have been. At pick 19, they passed on Trevon Diggs. They passed on Antoine Winfield Jr. They passed on Justin Jefferson, though he went just before. Those are game changers. And instead, they got a player who played 13 total games and recorded just 3 pass deflections, 0 interceptions, 0 impact. By the time the Raiders let him go, it wasn't even about football anymore. It was about protecting the team's image, the locker room, the culture, and for a team trying to rebuild its identity in Las Vegas, Arnett was the exact opposite of what they needed. What stings even more is how quickly it all unraveled. Most draft busts at least hang around for a few seasons. Some even get a second chance. But with Arnett, there was nothing to salvage. He wasn't just underperforming, he was self-destructing. The Raiders rolled the dice and lost, badly, and just. Like that, another first-round pick went up in smoke. Now, if you thought Damon Arnett was a surprise bust, the next pick was a decision no one could believe from the start. Number 3, Darius Hayward Bay, wide receiver, 2009. First round, pick 7 before we talk about the next draft pick that completely shattered expectations in the worst possible way. We have to go back to 2009. The Raiders were desperate. They needed a wide receiver, not just any receiver, a star. Someone who could stretch the field, make plays, and finally bring back the explosive offense Raider Nation had been begging for. And the 2009 NFL Draft had options, great ones. Michael Crabtree, Jeremy Maclin, Hakeem Nicks, Percy Harvin, names that would go on to have real careers in the league, productive, playmakers, proven. But instead, the Raiders did what only the Raiders could do. They shocked the football world by selecting a name almost no one had at the top of their boards, Darius Hayward Bay, wide receiver, Maryland, 7th overall pick. It wasn't just surprising, it was baffling. Even the ESPN draft analysts looked stunned. Mock drafts had him going in the late first round, maybe early second. But Al Davis had seen something, and that something was speed. Hayward Bay had just run a 4:30 40-yard dash at the combine, blazing fast, one of the fastest in the class. That was all Al needed to see. He ignored the scouts, ignored the concerns, ignored the hands, the footwork, the actual production. For Al Davis, speed was everything. And in Darius Hayward Bay, he saw the ghost of Cliff Branch, only faster. But what he didn't see, or chose to ignore, was the truth. Hayward Bay couldn't catch. From the start, it was obvious the Raiders had made a mistake. Hayward Bay struggled to create separation. When he did, the ball often slipped right through his hands. In his rookie season, he caught just 9 passes for 124 yards. That's not a typo. A top 10 pick at wide receiver couldn't even break 150 receiving yards in his first year. Meanwhile, other rookies drafted after him were lighting it up. Jeremy Maclin had over 700 yards. Hakeem Nicks, nearly 800. Even Mike Wallace, a third-rounder, had over 750. But DHB, he was invisible. His route running was unpolished, his confidence shattered. And the fans? They knew this wasn't the guy. Injuries didn't help either. He couldn't stay healthy, missing games every season with minor pulls, strains, and setbacks. The only thing consistent about Darius Hayward Bay was inconsistency. Even in his best year, 2011, when he finally cracked 975 yards, it still felt hollow because it was clear he wasn't dominating, he wasn't leading, he wasn't the star the Raiders needed, and worst of all, he was never worth the pick. Because here's the real sting. Look at who was left on the board when the Raiders chose him. Michael Crabtree, a reliable, physical, sure-handed receiver, taken by the rival 49ers. Percy Harvin, explosive, multi-dimensional, and deadly in the open field. Hakeem Nicks, strong route runner, red zone threat, and key part of the Giants' Super Bowl run. Even defensive talents like Brian Orakpo and Clay Matthews were available. The Raiders had options. But they didn't care about fit. They didn't care about polish. They saw a stopwatch and gambled, and they lost. Hayward Bay lasted 4 seasons with the Raiders. He totaled 11 touchdowns in that time. For a top 10 pick, those are brutal numbers. Eventually, the team cut ties and DHB bounced around the league. He signed with the Colts, where he was mainly a depth piece. Later, he joined the Steelers, not as a featured receiver but as a special teams guy, from top 10 pick to a blocker on punts and kickoffs. That was the journey. And to be fair, Hayward Bay worked hard. He was known as a great locker room guy. He never complained, never blamed others. But it didn't change what everyone already knew. He was drafted way too high. And the blame didn't fall on him. It fell on the front office, on Al Davis, on a scouting process that prioritized measurables over ability. Because speed is a tool, not a guarantee. And when you ignore everything else, the results can be painful. Speed kills, and in this case, it killed the Raiders' chances. But if you think that's bad, wait till you hear about our next pick. Number 2. Clayland Ferrell. Defensive end, 2019. First round, pick 4. Before we talk about the biggest bust in modern Raiders draft history, let's rewind to a decision that stunned analysts, fans, and even NFL insiders. A decision that left many wondering what the Raiders were thinking. The year was 2019. The Raiders held the 4th overall pick, a premium spot loaded with potential. This was the kind of pick that could reshape a franchise. Expectations were sky high. With elite edge rushers like Josh Allen and Brian Burns still on the board, most people assumed the Raiders would go with a proven explosive pass rusher. But then came the shock. The Raiders selected Clayland Ferrell, a defensive end out of Clemson. Solid in college, yes. But no one, and I mean no one, saw him going that high. Ferrell had been projected as a mid to late first rounder. Some draft boards even placed him in the 2nd round. So when the Raiders called his name at number 4, jaws dropped. It felt like a reach. And it was. A massive one. And unfortunately for Raider Nation, the pick didn't age well. Ferrell came into the league with expectations he never came close to meeting. He was supposed to fill the void left by Khalil Mack, be the new face of the Raiders' defense, a disruptive edge rusher who could change games. But from his rookie season, things looked off. He struggled to adjust to NFL speed. His sack totals were disappointing. He couldn't get off blocks consistently, and worst of all, he disappeared in key moments. Games passed where you barely noticed he was on the field, and it wasn't just about numbers. Ferrell lacked the explosiveness, the urgency, the leadership that teams expect from a top 5 pick. While players drafted after him began thriving in other teams, Josh Allen with the Jaguars, Devin White with the Bucks, Brian Burns in Carolina, Ferrell's name slowly started to fade into the background. Year after year, Raider fans waited for a breakout. But it never came. Even when the Raiders coaching staff tried to help him by rotating him into different roles, nothing worked. He was soon overtaken on the depth chart by later round picks and journeymen. That's how underwhelming his performances were. He wasn't just failing to dominate, he was struggling to even hold on to a starting job. And let's not forget, this was a number 4 overall pick. That pick is supposed to be franchise-changing. It's supposed to deliver Pro Bowl talent. Instead, what the Raiders got was a role player. A quiet, forgettable chapter in a team that needed impact. By the time his rookie contract ended, the writing was on the wall. The Raiders didn't pick up his 5th-year option. They let him walk in free agency without a second contract. No ceremony, no fuss. Just a quiet exit for a player once expected to lead a defensive revolution in Las Vegas. And when you look back, this pick symbolizes something bigger. The chaos of the Raiders' draft decisions during the late 2010s. A front office that prioritized character guys over production. That reached for players far above their value. That ignored consensus for gut feelings and paid the price over and over again. Clayland Ferrell wasn't a locker room problem. He wasn't in trouble off the field. He wasn't arrogant or dramatic.
He just couldn't play at the level the Raiders needed him to. And that's what makes his case so disappointing. Because it wasn't attitude that brought him down. It was performance.
Pure and simple. And while Ferrell is still in the league, bouncing around on short-term contracts, he'll always be remembered by Raider fans for what could have been, what should have been, and what wasn't. The 2019 draft was a chance to reset the franchise. Instead, it became another mark in a long line of draft failures that haunted the team through its transition from Oakland to Las Vegas. But nothing, and I mean nothing, compares to the disaster that tops this list. Number 1, JaMarcus Russell, quarterback, 2007, first round, pick 1. Before we talk about the long-term damage one pick did to the entire Raiders franchise, we have to go back to 2007, a time when hope was alive, and the Raiders believed they'd finally found their savior. The team was desperate. Years of quarterback failures, front office mistakes, and coaching changes had left the once great franchise searching for answers. They owned the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, the kind of golden opportunity teams wait years for, and all eyes were on one man, JaMarcus Russell. He had it all, at least on paper. A rocket arm, incredible size, at 6'6" and nearly 260 pounds, Russell looked like he was built in a lab. He had just lit up the Sugar Bowl with LSU, throwing bombs across the field like it was nothing. Scouts were mesmerized. Analysts said he had the highest ceiling of any quarterback in years. To the Raiders, this wasn't just a pick. It was destiny. But what followed was one of the greatest disasters the NFL has ever seen. Russell didn't sign immediately. He held out through training camp in a contract dispute. By the time he finally joined the team, he was already behind, way behind. And he didn't exactly hit the ground running. In fact, he barely hit the ground jogging. He showed up out of shape, unmotivated, and visibly overwhelmed. Instead of taking command of the huddle, he looked confused. His footwork was clunky. His decision-making was slow. And despite that powerful arm, his accuracy was inconsistent. Still, the Raiders had invested millions. They had no choice but to push him forward. But the real issues weren't just physical. They were mental. Russell's work ethic became legendary for all the wrong reasons. Coaches would give him blank DVDs labeled game film just to test him. The next day, he'd come back saying he watched them, even though there was nothing on the discs. He didn't study. He didn't prepare. He didn't care. Then came the rumors. Stories leaked about his off-field lifestyle, late nights, partying, and syrup. Yes, codeine cough syrup mixed with soda, a dangerous drink known as purple. Drank. There were whispers that JaMarcus was addicted, that he was more interested in lean than learning plays, and when it came to Sundays, the results spoke for themselves. In 3 seasons, Russell threw just 18 touchdowns to 23 interceptions. He completed under 53% of his passes. He was slow, careless, and completely ineffective. The Raiders' offense sputtered, fans booed, coaches gave up. The entire locker room lost faith. Even when they tried to simplify the offense for him, it didn't help. He couldn't read defenses, he couldn't lead a drive. He was benched multiple times, each time showing no signs of growth, and while some busts leave quietly, Russell's collapse was loud and destructive. He was cut in 2010, just 3 seasons into his career. After earning over $39 million, he was out of the league and never came back. No second act, no redemption story, just a trail of disappointment and wasted potential. But his exit didn't end the damage. It haunted the Raiders for years. That one pick set the franchise back. Nearly a decade. The team had to start over, again and again, burning through head coaches, GMs, and more quarterbacks, all because they missed so badly at number 1. And it wasn't just a bad pick. It was the pick The one you're supposed to build your team around. And instead of building, the Raiders were left cleaning up the mess. Imagine what could have been. Imagine if they'd picked Calvin Johnson, a Hall of Fame receiver taken just 2 picks later, or Adrian Peterson, or Patrick Willis, legends who changed the game. Instead, they got a quarterback who became a cautionary tale. Today, JaMarcus Russell isn't just remembered as a Raider bust. He's remembered as the biggest bust in NFL draft history. A name that lives on in infamy. A symbol of what happens when hype overtakes preparation. When raw talent replaces real effort. When a team bets everything on a player who never wanted it enough. And for the Raiders, it was more than just a failed pick. It was heartbreak. It was embarrassment. It was lost time, lost money, and lost belief. A reminder that no matter how big the stage, or how strong the arm, it all falls apart. Without heart, the NFL draft is a gamble. Every year, teams hope to find their next superstar, their future, their cornerstone. But these picks, they weren't just bad luck. They were bad decisions, fueled by ego, poor scouting, or flat-out desperation. For the Raiders, each of these names, Damon Arnette, Darius Hayward Bay, Clayland Ferrell, and JaMarcus Russell, represents more than just a missed opportunity. They represent seasons lost, millions wasted, and fans left asking, what if? Because for every Hall of Famer who changes a team's legacy, there's a draft bust who leaves it broken. These 4 picks are a painful reminder of just how far. One wrong decision can set a team back, but Raider Nation is built different. We remember, we learn, and we keep the legacy alive, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So now it's your turn. Which one of these picks hurt the Raiders the most? Let us know in the comments. We read them all. And if you're a true member of Raider Nation, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the bell so you never miss a story. From the wild, unforgettable history of the silver and black, this is History of Raiders, where legends live on and mistakes are never forgotten.